I'm very pleased to introduce our speaker for today, Mr. David Law. Mr. Law is the Director of Global Academic Programs at the Sutardja Center for Entrepreneurship and Technology at UC Berkeley. He's in charge of creating, designing, and running international entrepreneurship programs at the center. David himself is an experienced instructor of project-based entrepreneurship courses, including the center's famous Challenge Lab course, which is based on the Berkeley methods of entrepreneurship. Aside from his work at UC Berkeley, David co-founded a company called Venture Dojo, which helps universities around the world to offer the same entrepreneurship and innovation courses that are provided at UC Berkeley. David has collaborated with universities, governments, and NGOs in many countries. And besides his time at UC Berkeley, he spent 20 years in the software industry and played leadership roles in finance, sales, and strategies. His rich background in both the academic and business world will bring a unique perspective to our forum today. So today, David's talk will focus on the Sutardja Center's unique teaching approach, the Berkeley method of entrepreneurship. It will highlight how to work with different academic departments, incorporate innovation and entrepreneurship in higher education, and show us the ways to collaborate with the industry. So please let us join together to give a warm welcome to Mr. Law.
Great, thank you. So good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to join you this afternoon. I'm really honored to be here at the Future University Forum hosted by NTU. You know, as university administrators and faculty and staff, we have a responsibility to our students, not only to provide them the opportunity for good academic success, but success in the workplace as well. Today I'm going to share with you how we at UC Berkeley, and specifically at the Sutardja Center for Entrepreneurship and Technology, believe that skills in entrepreneurship and innovation are universally valuable to our graduates, regardless of whether they wish to start a company now, in the future, or maybe never. I think we're in alignment on what the goals are here in Taiwan. Before I begin, I wouldn't be here if not for the kind invitation by my host here at NTU. I was fortunate to meet several of you at UC Berkeley a few months ago. It was nice to host you there, and I think you got a good flavor of some of the things that are happening on the UC Berkeley campus. Thank you for organizing my visit and sponsoring today's forum. This is my third visit to Taiwan, maybe my fourth, but I think the third. The pandemic always kind of confuses things there. And I've always had a really warm welcome here, and I really appreciate it. I look forward to coming back again. Hopefully to maybe join something that you're doing at your university, but certainly here just to have more bubble tea, more night food market food, and dim sum, because I've gained like 10 pounds since I've been here. But thank you very much. I appreciate your attendance today. I'm going to share with you what we are doing at UC Berkeley, and more specifically SCET. I'm not going to say the whole name. It's a mouthful. I don't intend to be prescriptive in any way, certainly, because UC Berkeley is operating in a very different geographic and demographic context, cultural context as well. But I believe there are a lot of things that we can learn from each other if we share. And I certainly intend to learn from you all later today. I think we're going to have an opportunity for some discussion and questions as well, and I look really forward to that. I'll share a bit more in detail, certainly, about what we're doing at SCET, how we teach, how we fit into the overall Berkeley ecosystem, and then finally, a short, brief introduction to some of the things that are coming at Berkeley, some of the things that we're looking forward to in the future, in the next few years. Now, I'm not going to give you a history lesson, Don't worry. A quick poll, though. I'm curious if anyone in the room has studied or worked or lived in California or even the West Coast, even if it's just a short study. I see a couple hands. Yes, great. Some of this might seem familiar to you. Starting with the gold rush back in 1849, people came to California as pioneers and explorers, speculators, looking for new opportunities, right? The world wars and the space race really attracted a lot of research and development money that came into the state of California. From nuclear technology, radio communication, and of course the integrated circuit, right? These activities really spurred a lot of forward-looking funding and efforts in research. At the same time, the free speech movement at Berkeley really gave birth to a culture of challenging the status quo. And that culture of challenging the status quo is something that persists at Berkeley and in Silicon Valley writ large. This disruption spilled over into industry. From Fairchild Semiconductor in the late 50s, when engineers at Fairchild started a trend. Hundreds of companies came out of Fairchild Semiconductor when engineers left companies and began creating their own. And this was a new phenomenon, and it persists today. Today, we're introduced to new technologies, new business models that are disruptive, that are helpful, some ways annoying in our professional and daily lives. And this culture of innovation and exploration is something that's really at the heart of Silicon Valley. UC Berkeley has really been at the center of a lot of this activity, a beneficiary of research and development spending from the Defense Department, from NASA, really has propelled Berkeley to become a globally recognized research and academic facility. It's a reputation that UC Berkeley maintains today. Our faculty and our students have won numerous global awards in deep tech and research in the sciences, including a number of Nobel Prizes. And today, Berkeley maintains its reputation as a leading university. However, it's only been recently, in the last decade or so, that Berkeley has been recognized as a leader in innovation and entrepreneurship. In September of this year, Berkeley was recognized as the #1 university, public or private, for startup creation amongst our undergraduate alumni. These are VC-funded, venture capital-funded startups. And if you're curious, we're #2 behind Stanford in companies created by graduate students. This data is from PitchBook. I believe this is driven primarily by three things: a campus-wide commitment from the Chancellor's office and a creation of a new Vice Chancellor of Innovation and Entrepreneurship in 2020, Dr. Richard Lyons. The development of over 100 resources for entrepreneurs and innovators, including our students, researchers, and alumni, and a student population determined to solve problems. In a recent survey from Business Wire, 62% of Gen Zers say they look forward to starting their own company at some point during their life. I highlight these things because I believe it demonstrates that it requires more than just a top-down approach, right? That's certainly critical, that the head of the institution or the university system buys in to the fact that innovation and entrepreneurship is important. That's very critical. But it also requires the engagement across the campus and collaboration across the campus and even outside the campus with our industry partners is really critical. And finally, it requires student engagement and community building. So it can't be top-down, and it's not going to be driven by our grassroots efforts. I think all of these things in combination have helped make us successful. I mentioned there were over 100 resources on campus at UC Berkeley to support entrepreneurs and innovators, including SCET. These organizations represent academic centers, incubators, accelerators, competitions, and outside investment funds that support Berkeley-affiliated startups. Some of these organizations are actually student-run. It's important to note that in 2005, when SCET was founded, there were fewer than 20 such organizations. So from 2005 till today, we have seen an explosion of interest and support for students who want to start companies, for innovative industries, for bringing research to the market, and fortunately, a lot of support from industry and outside support for this ecosystem. This image only shows a few of those resources, and I'd like to just highlight a couple. The Big Ideas competition is a University of California-wide competition for students who are interested in social entrepreneurship. It was founded at UC Berkeley, and students from across the UC system now participate in this competition. Startup at Berkeley Law, right? Who would have thought that the law school would be engaged in our startup ecosystem? They offer an amazing 6-week workshop for startup founders or students interested in starting their own company. It's free, and it is an amazing support mechanism that helps students navigate all of the legal issues they might encounter of starting a business in California, everything from human resource law to how to develop a cap table for investors, et cetera. The new Baker Bioingenuity Hub that I think our friends, when you came to UC Berkeley, were able to visit with Dr. Lyons, is a new facility, and it really supports researchers and startups at the intersection of life sciences, computer science, data science. SCT, we are actually partnering with the Baker Bioingenuity Hub for a new class that we're offering in the spring, a project-based challenge lab on neurotech and brain health. So how we can use innovations in technology to support brain health and all of the some of the challenges that we're facing as an aging society. Skydeck might be probably one of the most famous parts of our ecosystem. It is definitely a crown jewel at Berkeley. It is our university accelerator. It is funded and supported and staffed by the university. However, there is an outside fund, 2 outside funds now that have raised in excess of $90 million to invest in Berkeley startups that join the accelerator. And then lastly, to round out, the house fund, this little mushroom shape here, is a private accelerator. It was founded a few years ago by Berkeley alums. They just closed another fund, so now they have about $150 million, and they're investing solely in Berkeley-affiliated startups. So these are just bits and pieces of the ecosystem that make the whole thing work together. And I chose them because I think they reach different parts of the student body and engage the student body and our researchers and alumni in different ways. I'd like to introduce SCET a little bit. We were founded in 2005. We are part of the College of Engineering, and you're probably thinking, what a weird place for a center for entrepreneurship, right? Typically, you might find that in the business school. But we were founded in 2005, really with the express purpose of giving engineering, computing science, and data science students an opportunity to work with other students across campus to start companies. I think it was an interesting insight by the dean of the College of Engineering at the time, Richard Newton, who was wondering, why can't we have better access to entrepreneurship education, which then was the exclusive domain of the business school. But the business school classes are impacted, right? So business schools are generally, 99% of those seats are taken by degree-seeking business students and MBA students. It's very difficult for anyone outside of the business school domain to avail themselves of a lot of the really great programming at the Haas Business School. So this was an opportunity for us to provide our technical students an opportunity to get this sort of training and skills development. From inception, SCET has been a multidisciplinary center. Our courses are open to students across campus. Beyond our core academic offerings, we are first and foremost an academic center. We have a group of global engagement professionals, including myself. Really, we value internationalization and the value that our international students, visiting students who come to SCET bring. They help build intercultural competencies. And when it comes to problem solving, they really bring a unique perspective to the teams and to solutions that are developed to solve some of the big problems. We have a startup semester program and a summer venture lab program that I manage, and we also have a visiting researcher program from anywhere from master's level research students who have projects they're interested in, all the way through faculty and research visiting scholar positions that we support. We have an executive education group. This is really vital for us to engage with alumni and industry in technical fields. Again, you might ask, why is this engineering group offering executive education, typically the domain of a business school maybe? We have 4 programs, and we're really focused on a lot of the big companies in Silicon Valley right now who are seeing directors of engineering come up, of promise, who now need to understand how to lead a department, a business unit, who need skills in managing a P&L, who need skills in learning how to develop an innovative culture, right? So we work quite well with a lot of these companies to train those folks. We have collider labs that are applied research activities. The focus of these collider labs is really to engage with the research community and industry. So you'll see a lot of these areas that are kind of circling around the core are really targeted at engaging different audiences and pulling people in to our sphere so that we can cooperate and collaborate, and they get a lot of value out of the interaction is our goal. We have 3 collider labs right now, applied research labs. These are not the typical lab you might think of, the white coat lab. These are really taking research and technologies and applying it to real world problems, right? We have a lab in climate innovation, one in food sustainability, and our newest lab that I mentioned is in neurotech, and that's in partnership with the Baker Bioingenuity Hub at UC Berkeley. Lastly, we have a new position and a new group that is focused solely on community building. You're probably going to hear me talk a little bit today about community building. It's a really important function. So we hired someone who's working with an army of student interns. They have created a Student Innovation Fellow program. And generally, it's targeting most of the students who are not taking our classes, right? So students who are really interested in this idea or this concept of innovation, maybe they're interested in technology, they're kind of fascinated by entrepreneurship, but they don't in any way see themselves as entrepreneurs. This is really an opportunity for us to reach out to them, network with them, and then hopefully they will join a class at some point. But it's a way for us to get beyond our traditional audience and introduce some of these topics. And they've done it in a really clever way. They've gone across campus and found lots of well-known researchers and instructors in clean tech, in sociology, a professor who teaches a class on gratitude, for example, and they've created these mini challenges for students to either do a video or do a short research project, and they've gamified the whole system with points. And I think there's 140 students this semester who started. We'll probably end the semester with 50 or 60 who are still competing for prizes. But it's been a really unique way for us to kind of get beyond our traditional audience, to get people excited about these topics. And it's one of those things that I mentioned early on, this student engagement and this sort of grassroots effort is really important. So a little bit by the numbers. I like numbers. I'm a traditional in operations and a finance guy. So I wanted to share a little bit of the data that demonstrates some of our reach across campus. This year we will teach 1,800 students, representing over 50 majors. We average 12 courses per semester, 24 courses a year. That varies. We've taught as many as 2,500 students in a given academic year, and we've taught as many as 30 courses in a given academic year. But it seems like post-pandemic now we've sort of settled into about an average academic year of about 2,000 students or so. 14% of our students are international visiting students. 15% of our students are graduate students. And SCET itself has developed a network of over 350 mentors, guest lecturers, investors, panelists, and most of these, I would say 80% of them are from our alumni community. We're fortunate at UC Berkeley to have over 500,000, I think it's approaching 600,000 alumni, active alumni around the world. I think what's one thing that's unique probably about the US university culture, alumni tend to be very engaged, and we have a very active alumni group, and particularly because of our location, many of our alumni are involved in entrepreneurship, they're involved in technology, and they really are looking for ways to engage with us. And we usually start with something small, maybe join us as a panelist on a pitch competition, and then maybe they become a mentor for a team, a supervised mentor. And then if they're really interested and they're qualified, maybe they join a team teaching role in one of our classes. So these networks are critical for us. Being multidisciplinary has really been one of the keys to our success. It was mentioned the need to break down some of these silos and have collaboration across departments. This has really been transformational for us. You can see the representation from all of the degrees. Our graduate students are primarily Masters of Engineering students, Masters of Design students, and the Haas MBA program. One of the things we have done is work with other departmental advisors to make sure that the courses we offer are qualified and listed, either cross-listed or just listed as electives for these master degree programs, for other programs. You know, Berkeley just launched its first new college in 50 years, the School of Computing and Data Science for Society. Traditionally housed in the College of Engineering, it has now become its own separate college. And we just got approval for some of our courses to be added to their elective lists. So students who are studying data science, for example, are able to take an elective at the Sutardja Center, or SCET, and I think that's going to be really good for us and good for the students as well. Our international student population is really important, and it's intentional. You know, first and foremost, we serve Cal students, the students at Berkeley. And we're always asked, of course, because we are a public university, we are taxpayer funded to some extent, a very small percentage, I might add, at Berkeley. The funding from the state is quite low. But we're often asked, you know, are international students taking seats from Cal students, right? This is always a debate that we go through every year. In fact, our numbers are in line with the university, and it is absolutely critical that our Cal students have the opportunity to work with students from around the world. These students not only contribute to some great solutions for problems, but our students need these cross-cultural communication skills. They need these intercultural competency skills to succeed in today's workplace. I'd like to share a little bit about what drives us, some of our belief statements, some of our missions. We've been working through this. We're approaching our 20-year anniversary. In 2025, we will turn 20 years old. So we've been going through a strategy review. So these are pretty fresh, hot off the press, if you will. Some of this is going to sound familiar and a little repetitive, so I'm sorry. Entrepreneurial skills are universally valuable. As we talked about, even if you don't want to be a founder or work for a startup, we believe that entrepreneurial thinking and leadership is going to be critical to your success in the job market. It is going to make you more competitive, and it is going to make you more promotable. We hear from our students that they got their internship or their job offer by sharing their project portfolio from SCET. Employers are looking for creative problem solvers, adaptable team players. They're looking for strong communicators and critical thinkers, right? For the job that they hire you for today, they're not even sure if that job is going to be around in 2 years, right? So how do they bring you into the organization and know that you're going to be adaptable, trainable, that you're a quick learner, that you're a team player, right? They want to keep you. You're of high value to them and a high cost if you decide to leave, right? Mindset and good habits are at the foundation of success, and we're going to talk a lot about this today. We have identified specific behaviors and mindsets and attitudes common among successful innovators, and we're going to cover a lot about that later, so I won't spend more time on it here. Real-world experiential learning is transformative. Students, our students and your students, are more engaged if they believe what they're learning matters and that it has real-world consequences, right? We offer a range of topic-based courses in entrepreneurship, in climate change, sustainability, health tech, sports tech, social impact, and more. Diversity and inclusion yield better results. We've talked about this quite a bit. Different perspectives, academic backgrounds, and cultural experiences mean better solutions to really tough problems. Our community thrives with mentoring and lifelong learning. You know, entrepreneurship is not easy. We have a founder here. I'm sure he can share some battle scars with you, and other entrepreneurs or any student who's worked on a startup project is going to tell you it's really hard. So having a community and a support group of mentors, like-minded students, is critical. Responsible innovators drive positive impact. We want our students to be responsible innovators, right? Especially in today's world of AI, right? As AI seems to be cutting across every industry, is finding its way. Whether it's real AI or not is another question. We hear a lot of AI tossed around when it's not really AI. But I think it does bring to the fore the importance that we teach our students, the importance of ethical use of technology, that we talk about privacy, and that we talk about security. I think we all have a shared experience of how technology has gone awry and has done quite a bit of damage to society in a lot of ways, and we want to prevent that from happening in the future as best we can. Collaboration is the only way to win. You know, entrepreneurship is a team sport. You don't see a single entrepreneur, a single founder out there alone making it, right? There's always a team surrounding them. This is really critical, that our students learn how to build a strong team, how to manage team conflict, how to communicate effectively, how to make decisions, how to prioritize, right? These are all things that any employer would love to have in a candidate as well, right? These are the principles and statements that really drive what we do as a center inside and outside the classroom. So how do we do this in the classroom? What's the framework? What's the methodology? In 2015, SCET developed the Berkeley method of entrepreneurship. Based on years of observation and teaching experience, a unique approach was developed that focuses on 3 pillars: mindsets and behaviors, frameworks, and networks and connections or ecosystems. Here's a different way of looking at it. Mindsets and behaviors. You know, successful entrepreneurs tend to have similar attitudes and mindsets. And they have behaviors that support their journey. For example, being open-minded, right? Being resilient. SCET courses help students learn about their own attitudes. And it helps them adjust their mindsets and behaviors to become more entrepreneurial. Frameworks and cases. Any teacher in this room of entrepreneurship will be familiar with the traditional frameworks and cases. For example, Lean Startup Canvas, other startup cases which provide valuable insights and examples for students. We don't promote any one framework. Even though the Steve Blank is across the street from us, we love his work, we love his tools, but we think it's important that students avail themselves of a menu of approaches, and they can choose what works best for them and their team. I think this is part of our approach, right? So students take some agency and some decision-making on what works best for them. Diverse networks and connections. You know, we've always known and learned from our network the importance of you know, having these connections. And we always, you know, we're throwing students into networking events and we tell them they need to go to networking events. But really, my eyes personally were opened after I found the research of Dr. Wesley Sine at Cornell, who we work with quite a bit now. He's done a lot of research on innovators inside companies and looked at their networks. And you will tell, you can almost look at their network and tell whether they are an innovative thinker or not. Those who are innovative have very diverse networks. They have people in their network that are very different from them, right? If you are a computer scientist surrounding yourself all with other computer scientists, there's a, you know, I'm generalizing, but there's a fair degree of certainty that maybe you're not going to be quite as innovative as a computer scientist who has friends in the arts and business and design, and others who are going to provide counter-programming to their belief, who's going to challenge some of their assumptions, maybe come up with a very different approach or solution to a problem. We leverage inductive learning. You know, often in entrepreneurship, there's not a right answer. There's a lot of experimentation that happens. You're doing something new and you need to experiment. It's important that students find the right answers by asking questions. We found that requiring students to try first and then get feedback is going to result in a much richer learning experience for them. And finally, we use a journey-based approach. When you're teaching project-based entrepreneurship or you're working with any startup team, you realize that they all will progress in a different fashion, at a different pace. Some teams will move much quicker than others. Some teams will learn when to pivot. Others will be stubborn and keep running into the wall over and over and over again. That's part of entrepreneurship education. It's part of starting a company. We have to realize that, and we have to understand that the process is just as important as the outcome for our students. So what does the implementation of this look like? You know, we have our project-based courses are called challenge labs. And the first few weeks of any given semester are really focused on ideation and team building within the prescribed kind of problem space that the teams are working on. And then we move into a regular cadence of covering some very familiar topics to you if you've studied entrepreneurship, right? So opportunity identification, customer discovery, business model innovation, et cetera, right? So those, for us, generally will break out into a weekly cadence covering these topics. And we have a process that we feel is very important that exposes students to different learning modalities. Our Challenge Lab courses, by the way, are 4 hours a week. Sometimes they're split into 2 sessions. Sometimes they're 1 4-hour session. And for us, that means 4 hours of work in the classroom and a minimum of 4 hours of work outside the classroom in your project work. As the semester goes on, we have students complaining quite a bit that it's taking them more like 8 hours outside the classroom to kind of keep this thing going. And I don't doubt that, right? When you're out trying to conduct interviews with customers and you're trying to build a prototype, these are very time-consuming things, especially if you're a student taking other classes. But we use obviously the very traditional kind of lecture and knowledge transfer. I'll say that in most of our classes we have a team teaching model, so there will be a domain expert. So in our climate innovation class this semester, a lot of the projects are focusing on water pollution, oil spills, and things like that. So there's a teacher who has his PhD in environmental sciences who's teaching that class. And there's also an entrepreneur who has a company in that space who's also co-teaching that class. We feel it's very important that practitioners are in the classroom, even if they aren't there as a co-teacher, that for some of these other tasks that I'm talking about, it's really important for us that we bring practitioners, entrepreneurs, and others into the classroom. So lecture content and games. Games are really important for us. You can learn a great deal about someone by playing a game with them, right? Even as kids, right? It's one of those things that, we're just having fun, but you don't realize that, if you observe, you can figure out who's detail-oriented, who's a strategic thinker, who's apathetic, who responds well to a challenge, right? Do they get frustrated very easily? Are they a good communicator? When you're playing a game, you get to observe all of these things. And this is very important at the very early part of the semester, and we do a lot of this activity. It probably tails off quite a bit towards the end of the semester when students are really, really deep into their projects. But when you're thinking about building a team, you want to think, not only do I have all the right skills on the team, right? I want to have someone who can build something, right? I probably want someone, if I can find them, who's got some business experience, right, in marketing, who can help me put together a financial plan. Amazing if I can find a design student, right? But beyond that, can I work with these people for the next 16 weeks without killing them, right? Right? How are we going to work together as a team? Because let me tell you, 25 to 30% of those ideas and those opportunities that you were passionate about the first couple weeks of class, that thing that brought you together as a team, as a unit, that may run into a wall. You may find 50 different reasons why that is no longer a viable opportunity or an idea, right? So where do you go as a unit after that, right? So if you've chosen the right team, you're going to have much better success sort of pivoting to the next idea, to the next opportunity, and moving forward as a unit, right? If you haven't done a good job at building that team, then as the instructor, I'm left trying to help you pick up the pieces, right? When your team can't function and two of them want to go do a different idea and two of them want to go do this idea, and then you're left standing alone, right? We invite local heroes. We call them local heroes. They are entrepreneurs who will come into the classroom and share their story on the topic of the week, right? So I've been in some classes where they bring entrepreneurs into the room, and these guys have an amazing story, and they're great to listen to, but what they talk about is completely irrelevant to where you are in the classroom and where the team is, right? So if you're early in the semester and the team is talking about opportunity identification, right? Bring in an entrepreneur who can talk about their experience in opportunity identification, how they validated the market, how they looked at competition, how they decided that, yes, this is worth moving forward on, right? That's really important. I would say the person you bring in, you want those people to also look like your student body. There should be good representation, right? I have seen so many slides. I've sat in a room like this, and students looking just like you, and people put a slide with Gates and Musk and Zuckerberg, all of these old white guys. I mean, they're all old now, right? I mean, they're not as old as I am, but, right? So it is really important that I think for students to see people who are like them, right? So bringing women into the classroom, successful entrepreneurs and female investors, bringing people of color into the classroom, bringing young entrepreneurs into the classroom, right? People cannot believe that they can actually do it unless they see other people who are like them who are being successful. This is something that's really important. It goes from these local heroes to also your guest lecturers. We have a strong focus on execution. So each week, students are going to have to apply what they learned to their project, and then we're going to bring them up in front of class. There's going to be a master class. Any musicians in here kind of familiar with the concept of the master class, right? So you get up, you go to the front, and you've got to play your piece, right? And then they're going to stop you and pick you apart and tell you, what you did wrong, how you should fix it, right? So this is the same concept that we have with our students. They get 3 minutes to come up and say, okay, here's what they got a lesson last week and this whole cycle on business model innovation. The following week, they're each standing up. Maybe we choose 5 teams at random. They have 3 minutes to talk about their process, their progress on business model innovation, what they found out, what they've done, what they've accomplished. Did they run into a challenge? Did they not do anything and they've sort of failed at it? And what did they learn from that? And I think the unique thing that we try to do there is have the faculty member or the instructor act as a facilitator. Most of the questions are coming from students. This is a very important distinction for our students to be asking the team up front, well, did you try this? Or have you done that? Oh yeah, guess what? We had the same problem, and here's what we did to solve it. Way more powerful than me telling them what they should have done or what they could have done, right? I think this is really important. External feedback, really, making sure that we provide mentors for students. We often will assign students to go out and find a mentor in some classes, so it can work both ways. But having these external voices is really important because guess what? They are going to get information that runs counter to what you told them in the classroom, or what someone else told them, or what they read. And I think getting these different inputs, right? Because often there's more than one right answer, right? There's more than one right opinion on how to move forward. And it's great for students to hear these different inputs and then have to make a decision. Okay, what do we think? How are we going to validate which one of these is the best for our team and how are we going to move forward? The last thing that we do that I think is pretty unique, students hate it at the beginning, I will tell you. They hate it. And it's a lot of work for the instructors. But we require them to do a self-reflection. The beginning of the semester, maybe every 2 weeks. And the last part of the semester, they have to do it every week. It's this concept of metacognition, right? So asking students to think about what they were thinking when they were going through the process of a game or an exercise or what happened with their team, right? Asking them to pause and think about what I actually learned through that process. And we give them a prompt, right? We just don't have them go out there and spend 2 minutes, sharing their heart with us, right? So it might be, share with us, maybe a couple prompts here. Share with us, insights of your team's progress last week. And it could be as open as that, right? And we make sure that they know that it cannot be a laundry list of like, oh, here's what we did, or here's the things we accomplished, or here's all the things that went right or went wrong. It really has to be 2 or 3 strong insights on what they learned from that process. And lots of times, as the semester goes, we start getting a lot of reflection on what I learned when something went wrong, right? when we failed as a team, or when I feel that someone else failed us as a team, right? By and large, by the end of the semester, these self-reflection videos are Oscar-worthy. Let me tell you, these students really get into it. They understand the value of taking a beat, taking a minute, and just thinking about what happened last week and what they learned. And then they have this amazing video journey of what happened over the course of the semester. This really rough start to all of the great insights that they gather throughout the semester. I think it's important, because our student body is very diverse, that we try to reach them from all of these different modalities, because some students thrive on the lecture. That's their thing. They want to hear someone talk and they want to take notes. Other people don't learn so well that way. They want to actually get their hands dirty. They want to do something. They need to hear other outside opinions. So it's really, really important that we try to tackle this from multiple angles. Just to summarize the Berkeley method, I'm not going to really read through all of these things on the slide. I mentioned this view that our instructors are really trained to host our learning environment. This is a big shift in mindset for a lot of instructors. The instructors that don't really succeed working with us in this type of environment are those who are used to being the expert, or they want to be the only expert in the classroom. I can tell you, I've taught this class. I've taught it for 3 years, and it's tough. And you have 10 projects. Even if you put a problem space, right, in environmental. In sustainability, for example, do you know how many types of projects and technologies you can have in one class with 10 projects in sustainability? There's absolutely no way you can be an expert in all of these things, right? So we're looking for the mentality in our instructors, that they see themselves as a facilitator, a conductor almost of this symphony of people that they need to rely on, right? From mentors to outside guest lecturers. It's really important that they have the right attitude. We're trying to give students some control over their learning process, right? We want them to make decisions. We want them to be held accountable for the decisions they made, right? So why did you decide to use that particular tool or platform, right? We're going to ask them to talk to customers. They're going to have to build solutions and choose the best tools. And in the end, it's going to work, or it's not going to work so great, or maybe it's going to fail completely, right? And then we'll back up and go through that journey about why they made those decisions. I talked some about games. I think this is really important for what we're doing. And the final thing for instructors that I think is really important, and students, I'm sure there's probably some students here, developing a rubric that is really going to reward students for the learning and for the journey that happens along the way, and not just the final outcome. And we're going to talk about failure a little bit later. This is super important, but it adds a lot of complication to the instructor's life. Students love to know exactly what their grade is at any given point, right? This is huge. Just seems to be cuts across cultures. I can tell everyone nodding, right? They want to know in week 2, week 3, how am I doing? In a project-based entrepreneurship course, this is a complicated thing to do, right? Because I'm not giving you an exam. And none of our classes, none of them, is there a written exam. We can talk a little bit later. Probably we have some questions on this during the panel. I've mentioned mindset quite a bit. At SCET, we've identified 10 common mindsets and behaviors of successful entrepreneurs. I'm sure if you have done a startup project, or if you're an entrepreneur, you would probably maybe add 1 or 2, or maybe take a couple of these off the list and replace them with something else. But I think this list is pretty sufficient in capturing what we think are some pretty important mindsets and behaviors that we need to reinforce. I'm not going to go through the whole list of 10, but storytelling is particularly important in the Silicon Valley context. The ability to tell a concise and compelling story that is going to educate your audience on what it is you're doing is very important. This can also translate to your professional life, right? So we're in that networking event or you're in front of your employer and they're asking you, tell me about yourself, right? You want to be prepared for that conversation. Trust is a key component. No one is going to want to work with you if you won't share your ideas. You have to trust people enough to share their ideas. And Silicon Valley, believe it or not, is a highly trust-based environment. We're going to talk about failure. Good enough is perfect. I think for engineers is a struggle, right? They want to put a robust, elegant product into the market. And let me tell you, the message is from day one, the faster you get something in front of a customer, the better it is. And it doesn't have to work on the back end. It just needs to work maybe, or give them something to look at on the front end to figure out if you're headed in the right direction. And pay it forward for us, I think, is really important. Entrepreneurs and innovators need a lot of support. We give them a lot of support, right? They ask for help all the time. Can you introduce me to this person? Can you help me find a mentor here? I need someone who can help me with coding, right? We give them so much support. Our ask of them is that when you're done with all of this and someone says, I need someone to help me do that, that you raise your hand and you're willing to help them, right? And this has been really beneficial for us. Students who are in classes who come back and they want to be a course coordinator, or they want to be on a panel, or 5 years out after they have some experience and they want to be a mentor or a guest lecturer. This whole ecosystem, pay it forward, really is quite important. Now I'm going to talk about failure. Addressing failure is essential when you're talking about entrepreneurship. Many students struggle with this idea of failure. I find students who are not from the US tend to struggle more than our typical Berkeley student would struggle with success. That's a bit of a generalization, but it is my experience that international students do struggle a bit more with this concept of failure, right? So what do you do when 90% of startups fail within the first 5 years, right? It's unavoidable. This graphic here, it actually shows up pretty good here. I was worried it was going to be too small. This is from Harvard Business Review, an article called Spectrum of Reasons for Failure. And you can see it lists failure from blame-worthy failure to praise-worthy failure, right? At one end, it's pretty obvious, those things that they label deviance, right? So that sounds like a very provocative word, but obviously there are certain things that they're rules, right? There are just rules and processes that are not to be broken, right? So if you go willfully into breaking the rules, then for sure that is a blameworthy type of activity. On the other end is exploration, right? So when you're at the edge of something new and you have to try and there's 50-50 shot or more that you're going to fail, right? And then you're going to try something else. That's a praise-worthy end of the spectrum. I think the problem is that I hear a lot of entrepreneurship instructors and mentors talk about failure very casually. How many times have you heard failure's okay, you only learn from failing, right? Failure's good. It's almost an attempt to minimize failure as an obstacle, right? Instead of addressing the root cause, what's really in the room, right? So we need to be honest with students and say, yes, guess what? Some failure is unacceptable, right? There are things and decisions that you're going to do that you fully have to be held accountable for, right? But let's just be honest with them. Yes, you're going to make some mistakes. You should have known better. You had the right skills. You had enough time. You had the information. And you made a bad decision, right? But on the other end of the spectrum are those things that we have to educate them on, is where it is okay for them to experiment and to fail. So how do we get there, and how do we help them understand this difference? You know, we need students to understand their own biases, to be self-aware. You're probably familiar with this whole growth versus fixed mindset research. We love having students just take the quick quiz. I think it's interesting and informative. It doesn't mean that you're always going to be one way or another. It's that kind of instinctual thing, you know, like when things get really bad, you're going to gravitate to this type of behavior, right? And I think it's just really important for you to understand what that bias is. We need to let students fail. You know, we need to train our mentors to ask questions and not tell students what to do. We need to give them experience of making decisions and decide and figuring out, yeah, that was the wrong decision, and what did I learn for that? In these master classes, we want to openly celebrate failure. And that sounds a little weird, but it's the instructor's job when the team stands up there and says, guess what? This did not go the way we expected it to go. Or we spent 3 weeks, we burned 3 weeks on this because we didn't listen to our customers, right? So that's a failure, right? That's a praiseworthy failure. Maybe they should have moved a little bit faster. It's up to the instructor, though. Great, acknowledge the failure. What did you learn from it? Anyone else have this experience in the classroom? And then move on, right? There's no sense on dwelling on these sorts of praiseworthy failures. I think having students share these sorts of challenges is really important. It helps build community. To dig a little bit deeper, and I think a lot of these are day one topics in your entrepreneurship class. Students need to understand that every startup is just a business hypothesis. For students in science and engineering, this sort of a little light goes on and they think, oh, okay, I get it. This is an experiment. I'm just testing a hypothesis here. I think if you can really relay that in day one, week one, it's going to help students understand that, okay, we're going to be trying lots of new stuff here. Students need to understand that they're in a time-constrained environment, right? We're asking them to do a lot of stuff in 16 weeks. They might not have the skills. No team is going to have all of the right skills. They're going to be learning a lot of new stuff. They're going to make mistakes, right? Markets are inherently irrational, as are customers, right? So students may have a lot of very valid hypotheses or assumptions, and then they're going to find out that the reaction from the market and their customers was something completely different that they did not anticipate. And the last thing that I'm going to add is all of our instructors or mentors are really coached in that first week to make sure that students understand they're in a fail-safe zone, that there's a community there for them, and I think this is a really important thing to cover on day one. So how do we set up for success when we're launching these sorts of courses and we're working with different groups across campus? You know, we have a lot of experience designing these courses, and we've advised universities around the world, and here are some of the challenges and recommendations that we share. The first one is that project-based courses, we believe, should be elective. And I think the exception to that is if you have a major in entrepreneurship or a concentration in entrepreneurship that students need to fulfill certain requirements, yes, you can make these courses required. But let me tell you, if you have 20% of the students in your classroom that are not motivated and passionate about the topic, you sprinkle those 20% of the students across 10 teams. If you're unfortunate enough that there's one bad apple, I'm just going to call them that for lack of a better word, on every single team, the whole class is like there's a weight, right? So having students that are passionate and interested in these sorts of topics is really important to your success. I've talked a lot about being multidisciplinary. We have taught in Chile and in Mexico with cohorts that are all engineering students or all business students, and these are really difficult, heavy lifts, right? How do you get business students out with the skills to build something in 15 weeks? How do you get engineering students motivated to go out and learn about marketing and talking to customers and building a financial plan? It's a really heavy lift. I talked about realism and the importance of doing something that students find authentic, that they can apply to their personal lives, but they also see, yeah, I'm in this entrepreneurship course, but I know and I can understand how this is going to help me in my professional career. It's really important. Peer-to-peer learning, we've talked about, is something that I think is incredibly important. The grading rubric is something that is really important that students understand from day one. I would say in any given class, there's 2 teams that don't make it to the end. So in all of our classes, we require a functioning prototype at the end. Someone's going to actually look at your prototype, how you built it, why you made the decisions you did. Does it do what you say it was going to do? Does it address the problem? We have a lot of teams that don't get that far. Sometimes, great, they have something in Figma or PowerPoint that kind of like lays it through. Other times, they don't even get that far. Teams that wait until week 13 to decide they need to pivot and come up with a whole new idea and a new opportunity, right? You know, students might think, oh, I'm definitely getting an F in this class, right? Here I am in week 14, I've got 2 weeks left and we're starting from scratch, right? That's like an F for sure, right? I've had amazing final presentations by a team of students. There's like 2 international students and 3 Berkeley students who took us through their journey, everything they learned, what they did wrong, what they should have done earlier. And it was an amazing sort of class for all of us in which they shared how much they got out of the opportunity to work on that project. And then they spent a little bit of time talking about the work they had done in the last 2 weeks to try to recover. And they did really well in the class, because guess what? They got a lot of knowledge and learning and skills out of that process. Internationalization is near and dear to my heart. I think you guys have kind of gotten that. I'm going to say, I mentioned it before, that our project-based courses, they're a really heavy lift. We rarely offer a project-based course back-to-back. What I mean by that is I will teach, we will offer our Climate Innovation Challenge Lab in the fall, but not in the spring. I will offer my Neurotech Challenge Lab in the spring, but not in the fall. Because if I ask my instructors for the Climate Innovation Challenge Lab to teach that class in the fall, in the spring, and then in the fall again, they're going to be out the door, right? They don't want to teach it anymore because it's a lot of work and a lot of effort, and they get burned out. So I think that's something really important to consider as staff and administrators, setting your expectations of the extra work. I mean, the teachers are not getting paid more money to teach these classes, but the work and the students calling you and the support that's required outside the classroom is really a lot of effort that I think we need to recognize. And then the last thing that I'm going to add is don't be discouraged. It seems like, you know, Berkeley's got a lot going on. We've been doing this for a long time. Remember in 2005 when we started with 1 class. For the first 3 years, we ran 1 class. That class, I will tell you, turned out to be a very pivotal decision by our founding director at the time. It was our Richard Newton lecture series. It is a class, it is a 1-unit class, a 1 academic unit. So it's 1 hour a week, right? So it wasn't a big commitment by students. And we brought in 12 to 13 top entrepreneurs, technologists, and innovators from our alumni network. People that, you know, these students had no idea that they would ever have a chance to meet, let alone sit in a classroom and ask them questions. And we specifically told every single one of them, this is not a chance for an opportunity for you to come talk about all your successes and the great things you've done in life, right? This is an opportunity for you to talk about how tough it is, what you learned, how you failed, how you course corrected, how you navigated raising funds, whatever the topic was of the week. This course built a huge network of alumni who wanted to come speak, of students who were interested, right? You get all of their names, and then you start teaching other classes, and you let them know there's an opportunity to take a class in entrepreneurship and innovation, right? And then, you know, inviting other industry partners. So the choice of doing that class was a brilliant one. It's a great place to start. building community and getting excitement going on the campus. Given the time, I'm probably not going to spend a lot of effort here. I think our Vice Chancellor for Innovation and Entrepreneurship has done a great job of defragmenting all of the efforts at UC Berkeley. I mean, when you go through all the things and you think of 100 different activities on campus, you're thinking, oh, there must be a lot of overlap. You know, aren't you tripping over each other, trying to accomplish your goals? And in some cases, that has happened. I think the onus is not to centralize and not to squash a lot of the creativity that's happening, but let's leverage one another and create platforms that we can collaborate in different areas. And these are just some of the unique ones I think are interesting. I'm going to highlight one that I think is really critical. It's fairly new. It's our Changemaker series and our Discovery series. It is a course for freshmen. There are 25 departments now taking a Changemaker course, so there's a specific syllabus, there's certain learning outcomes that have to happen. The goal of this class is to introduce our first-year students to all the resources related to research, related to innovation, entrepreneurship, maker and builder spaces, right? With a goal of collaborating across disciplines. Catching them in year one, getting them excited. There's a lot of different well-known faculty and people from industry coming and talking about some of the biggest problems facing society, facing the planet, facing industry today, and really motivating these students, hey, I want to go out and tackle those things, and now I'm getting equipped with those skills. So we're really seeding and fertilizing that first-year student so as they go through, they can really maximize their 4-year journey at UC Berkeley. We're getting a great new home in 2025 to celebrate our 20th anniversary. We're going to be really excited. We're going to be on the engineering quad. We look forward to that. In closing, let us know how we can help you. You know, I hope you found at least one thing interesting or new in today's conversation. You know, we love to help, and we're here to help, and we would love for you to share your successes and what you're working on. You know, we have a strong belief, you know, about exchange, and we certainly would love to host Taiwanese students, Taiwanese startups, researchers, and faculty at UC Berkeley. Just reach out to me. My email's there, my LinkedIn QR code if you want to find me that way. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you for indulging a little bit of rush at the end, and I know that I'm over. So I apologize for that. But thank you to the team at NTU for the opportunity, and I look forward to the rest of the discussion today. Thank you very much.